Hello there, this is Rom Wills coming back at you again with yet another video. Today I'm going to talk about black women are too focused on looks and swag. Oh man. Now, this is something I've touched on throughout my books in many videos, but I haven't really got into it. And I'm gonna do something. I don't do a lot. I'm gonna use a couple references because you're not gonna deny what I'm saying here. I'm gonna share the words of some professionals on this one. Um, One of the things. Well, let's get some out of the way. Looks matter. Looks matter. Whether it's good looks, the look, a certain look. Looks matter. Swag matters if you have it, but there's something about swag I'm gonna get into later on. One of the issues I believe with in black relationships is there's too much of a focus by black women on finding a man who has good looks or swag, despite what they say. Now, as I said, I'm gonna use a couple references for this, and the links will be to these articles and blog will be in the description box. Because one of the things, like I said, looks matter. They do, but it's a question of how much they matter. Like in some cultural groups, they matter, but it's not more important than a man being able to provide, to protect, and all of that. You know, it's a concern, but in many cases, a secondary concern. One of the issues in Black America is that it's a primary concern. If you take an honest look at the men that black women are throwing themselves at, not the ones being caught by black women or like even walking around, but the ones that black women are checking for. It's very much about how good looking the guy is. And with looks, I would include not just his facial features, but his skin complexion in Black America, his height, his body build. You can also put in a secondary thing of how well he dresses, his style. And in fact, I'm gonna use a third reference for that matter. I'm gonna use a third reference for that matter. And reason I'm even getting into this, if people remember my previous video when I talked about the problem with black relationship solution discussions, we don't discuss these things. Like most women would not publicly admit the reason they passed over a dude was not because he wasn't a good guy and not because he didn't have a so-called degree, but because he didn't look good, or at least look good to them. Or maybe even not so much he looked good, but he wasn't like 6'2", or that he didn't have swag. I mean, I've actually had women say to me that they met a guy had on paper everything they wanted, but he didn't have swag. And like I said, I'm gonna get more into that swag thing later on. But I'm gonna read a couple. I'm gonna use some references for this. The first reference. Is from a Essence article. It was online on March 4th, 2014, and it was it might have been in a magazine for all I know, but I don't read it. But the title of the article was "Why Is It So Hard for Black Women to Find the Love They Deserve?" And let me scroll down. And so they asked two black women who are professional matchmakers, and they have a matchmaking agency, the Matchmaking Duel. And I'm gonna read just something they said in the article, And they say the usual yada yada. They really work with black women, and they say the black women feel like there's not enough quality men going around, and you want to court them, and they want all of that stuff. And here's what one of them said. Like, the question from Essence was, do you feel their concerns are a reality? Are eligible black men really that picky? And that was in reference to saying, like, some of these brothers who got it going on are going to be picky. But the answer from one of the women, what's her name up here? Hold on, yeah, I'm scrolling on here. Her name was Kelly Fisher. In answer to that question, she said, we continue to hear the same complaints all the time from black women across the country, so there's some validity to it. We found that black women are looking for more of that old-fashioned type of courting, whereas women of other races are being more aggressive. All right. Now, further down, Essence asked, like, do you feel black women and it said black women and men are too particular when it comes to potential dating candidates? And, once again, Ms. Fisher answered, we found that as opposed to the white clients that we've had, black women are usually looking for physical attributes first. We look for someone who's attractive to us, and then we pick up on his hobbies, interests, and values. Whereas white clients are looking for the reverse first. What kind of job does he have? Is he going to be able to provide? Then they circle back. And then, her partner, Miss Gilmore, and what's her first name? I gotta be patient with me. I'm like scrolling up and down. Tana Gilmore. She was, she added, we're the first ones to look at men's bodies and how attractive they are, whereas our white clients have a long list of requirements of things like character and integrity. Boom. Now, these are, well, let me read one more thing for it. Essence.com asked the question, do black women have realistic dating pool expectations? And Ms. Gilmore answered, we have clients that have a long laundry list of requirements. 6'4" with a PhD. Never been married, no children, in his late 30s or 40s. And I'll stop it right there because they said a whole lot in the article. 6'4". I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy. But it speaks to that physical thing. And these are professional matchmakers. This isn't Rom just bringing something off the top of his head. This is a professional matchmaker. Now, not to be outdone, there was another article. It was a blog I found, and it was another matchmaker, and it was titled "The Top 3 Types of Eligible but Overlooked Men." And this is what the woman wrote. What's her full name? I got to find that on here. I had to find it, but y'all can check it out through the links. I'll talk about the first two. Like number 3, she says, check out non-black men and stuff. That's cool. But the first 2 really deals with that whole physical issue. And this is what she said. As a matchmaker for black professionals, a good amount of my clients are African American women, of course. Amongst other things, I learn about the type of men they've dated in the past. I also have them tell me what they find themselves physically attracted to. Physical attraction isn't the most important feature, but it's definitely a feature and an important one. I think the problem is we often disqualify men based on superficial ideas of what we think our dream guy should look like. The reality is there are several attractive, eligible professional men we see on a daily basis, but don't even consider because he's not Idris Elba. And then she goes on to say she identifies the top 3 types. Now I mentioned the third one was just a non-black man. That's cool, but this discussion is about what black women checking for in black men. One of the things she says is her clients have a height requirement. She said they should check for Mr. Under 6 feet. And this is something, and this is something I've heard from a lot of men. I've heard this from a lot of brothers. They'll say a woman like overlooked them because they weren't 6 feet tall. Now, from a personal perspective, say I'm like 5'11". Like if bare feet, maybe 5'10" and 3/4 to 5'11", depends on how I hold my head and how I'm standing that day, to be honest. So I'm not 6 feet, but a lot of women will still consider me 6 feet. So that's not something I experienced personally, but I've heard a lot of men say a lot of women have passed them over because they weren't 6 feet. That's a physical thing. A dude could be the bomb for you and he's 5'9". Especially a lot of the average height for a woman is going to be 5'3". Now I see if the sister is 6 feet herself. I'm like, oh, okay, I understand. Most women want a man who can flip them, but you have women who are 5 foot tall talking about they want a 6 footer. And then the second part was, she said they should check for Mr. No Swag. And basically that's charisma, and that's why I say I want to get into that charisma piece. A lot of women are checking for that swag, which is really charisma. That's understandable. But see, here's a. I'm gonna hit y'all with some deepness. Y'all know I gotta go a little deep with y'all. Very few men are gonna have charisma, and it's not a common thing, and it's not a common thing to the point where. And this going to get on some esoteric thing. There was a book I read. It was about the occult, and it was written in maybe the 1920s. Back then, charisma was considered a psychic gift. I mean, they call it personal magnetism, and this book even talked about how to develop it. That's how they saw it back then. And one of the things about the books back then, they tend to be more extensive. One of the things happening now is a lot of knowledge is being removed from the public sphere, and trust me, that we start getting into some conspiracy talk then. That's when we really go deep then. But suffice to say, that's how rare charisma was considered. So for women to really want to look for that in a man or want to disqualify a man for not having it is kind of silly. Just like with the height thing, that whole physicality thing, like most reports say only 14% of the population in this country or anywhere in the world, really, it's probably lower if you go anywhere in the world, except for like, I think some Scandinavian countries where the average height is like 6'1" for a man. But for most of the world, 5'9" is tall. And there's only 14% of the men in this country are going to be over 6 feet. In fact, I remember Elder told me years ago. He said basketball players, if you think about it, are freaks of nature, because most men aren't that damn tall. But then you have women who looking for that physicality, who looking for that physicality, and so those were two. Those were two examples. I want to read a third. It's a book by a young woman I'm familiar with. Her name is Kenya K. Stevens. And let me find that excerpt. Let me find that excerpt. It was once again we'll get into that physical thing. And in it she said, it's a book, it's called Change Your Man, How to Become the Woman He Wants. But she had a chapter on how to make a man stylish. And this is what she says, right? Men are so beautiful. A fine man is like a morsel of well-prepared food, delicious and totally inviting. Men of any race, size, or age are even more appealing depending on the personal style choices and enhancements that make a man just right. A man's personal style includes his clothing, his scent, his choice of shoes, but can also include his vehicle, his walk, and his personality. A large element of style is also his physique. Oh baby, you know the ones I mean. The well-groomed personal style and clean cut with a body to match. Watch out, ladies. I'm heating up even as I speak the words. There's nothing more appealing to a woman than a man with a well-tailored personal style. From the initial point of contact of men with all of these elements in place, we find ourselves completely entranced by his appearance and style, and we simply go gaga and find ourselves considering ways to get him to notice, and we mean business, right, ladies? Now, so that's still appearance. Now, see, here's where the problem's coming in. Here's where the problem is coming in. When we look at the female selection criteria, the men who are making the cut as select are the ones who look good on the surface. But what's happening is many women, African American women, are missing out on men of character and integrity because maybe the man isn't that, maybe he's average height. Maybe he doesn't have that swag. But that doesn't mean that that man wouldn't have good intentions towards you. It doesn't mean that man wouldn't fit into what you want to do with your life. It doesn't mean that man wouldn't be the type who's going to protect you and hold you and care for you. You know, charisma is something special. It really is. And like I said, it was one time 100 years ago, it was considered a psychic gift. That's how special it is. And even if you look at people who have it now, like the movie stars and maybe politicians and leaders, people blessed with that gift, and it is a gift. They have something special. But asking the ordinary guy to have it is too much. And as far as the looks and physique, I mean, okay, good genetics, boom. And we understand, and it's understandable being attracted to that. But then the same women wonder why guys, will jump over them, like so-called good girls and all of that, who may not have that big old booty or that beautiful face, wondering why to get mad if a guy says he's going to he's just checking for that beautiful woman. And like I said, there's been some videos on this on YouTube where men have said, hey, you know what, don't go for that dime, check out that 7 or something, who might have your back, who can work with you. So men understand that. But see, men getting that, but then a lot of women still going for that physical thing. And if we're gonna talk in the black community, let's be real. There's still that whole issue of either you have some women checking for light skinned brothers, or they checking for a chocolate brother. And the problem with that is, you say you have a woman and she only like light skinned men, but then the man for her who would actually get her and do for her might be the chocolate brother, and vice versa. You get some brothers and they more light complexion, but they passed over because they ain't chocolate. They might not look like that man Dinko. And and that's one of the things I've seen. Because look, and this is coming from somebody who promotes to men to develop their personal style, to get in shape and all of that. I just, I accept that. But at the same time, a lot of women, they get burned by that. They get burned by that. Whereas other groups of women, one thing, and this was brought out by the matchmakers I quoted at the beginning. Other groups of women, yeah, they look for the physical part, but that's like secondary. That's like secondary. They want to know, hey, is this dude cool? This dude got some character and integrity. And in fact, a lot of women even overlook it. That's why in some other racial groups, you'll see like a drop dead gorgeous woman with a very average guy, which is something that I'm just going to keep this 100. It's rare I see that in the black community. Very rare. It's very rare. It's very rare I see a black woman with a quote unquote square. It's very rare. It's hard to see that, or that Carlton Banks or Poindexter type. In fact, there's been There's been like some court shows, divorce shows, and all of that where women are clowning those type of men. But you get the Idris Elba looking or Boris Cujo looking dude, shoot, and they making out like bands. Women going crazy, shoot, and shoot. Just hey, fellas, you don't believe me? Anybody don't believe me? Just Google some male exotic dancers and stuff. What they getting over on? Their physicality, and and it's something that we really, some people say, well, we got acceptance. I say no, they got to be a balance. That's all to it. There's got to be a balance. It's not totally wrong. It really isn't. But it has to be in balance with other stuff, and that's where the problem is coming in. It's out of balance. You're getting plenty of women who are, they checking, they going crazy over guys. I've seen this I've seen this too many times. Nobody can argue this with me, and some guys have experienced it. You know, shoot, I personally experienced, especially back in the day when I was really working out. I had total strangers coming up to me on the street, women, handing me their phone numbers, like literally just handing me their phone numbers. And yeah, it was good. Good times and stuff. But it was just like, well, look, y'all don't know me. I could be a serial killer, and that's an issue. So it's something to think about. It's something to think about. Like I said, for the men, it ain't something I just say, oh yeah, just ignore it, because then that would invalidate my books. Because that's any man who's read my stuff. What's the main thing I talk about? Getting in shape. That's the main thing I'm talking about. Developing your personal style. Your presentation and all of that. But my shit's more well-rounded and stuff because I talk about some other things. And but still. And even in my book, Sexual Chemistry, I talk about what I think will develop charisma in somebody. So far, it's only worked in like maybe one person. But I don't know any. Only that one person is the one I've known for years who actually did the work. So, it got back to me anyway. Might have worked for some other people. They hadn't got back to me, or they might have had something going on anyway. Which, as an aside, usually with the people who, the stuff I talk about in sexual chemistry, it works best with people who was kind of going in that direction anyway. But anyway, enough about that. Just something to think about. Just something to think about. Throw it out there, and if we're gonna really get into it, we're gonna talk about solutions. That's something we really got to get into, and we got to think on it, as I like to say. Think on this. We got to think on it, and it's right there. It's right there. We got to deal with it. So anyway, that's it for this one. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.